Today I'm going to go over some of my favorite books and talk to you about why I love them. These are my book recommendations, if you will, and in no particular order. So first up we have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This book was extremely fast-paced. It's a sci-fi meets thriller with a hint of romance in there. It centers around a man named Jason who has built a life with his wife. He's got a son named Charlie, and he's content with all of his decisions. And one night he goes to a bar to celebrate his friend's achievement and winning a scientific award, and he doesn't make it to his home. Instead, he wakes up in an unfamiliar place and everyone there recognizes him, but he doesn't recognize them. And it is a book that asks some philosophical questions. If you had the opportunity to go back in time and change your decision, would you? This was a really thrilling and quick read. I felt like I really formed a strong connection with Jason and wanted everything to work out for him. So if you're interested in like a thriller sci-fi, highly recommend this. Next up we have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is kind of a change of pace. I was a barista for 3 years, so I found this book to be very nostalgic. I know that a lot of people hate the term cozy fantasy, but that's exactly how I would describe this. I'm thinking it's a fall or winter day. I'm cozied up with some hot chocolate or maybe a hot cup of coffee, and I'm reading this. Reading the prologue, I didn't think that I was gonna like it. I thought I'd made a mistake because I'm typically not a fantasy reader. I love thrillers, but the action and gore of fantasy, I don't know. It's different somehow. Maybe that's me being hypocritical. But just reading about it, it wasn't what I expected from the prologue. But after that, it was smooth sailing. This centers around a character named Viv. She is creating a coffee shop in a place that has never heard of coffee. So this is kind of a story of her trials and tribulations of creating a coffee shop and trying to drum up some business when, again, no one around her has ever heard of coffee. This is a super cute story. I absolutely loved it. I devoured this. I know it's summertime, but this is a super cozy book. If the weather gets bad, like something you can just snuggle up and read. Going back to thrillers, this is The Last Room on the Left by Leah Konen. Thank you NetGalley and the publishers for letting me read this. This is a psychological thriller. I feel like there have been some mixed reviews on this book simply because of the blurb. The blurb said that this was a feminist take on The Shining. It both had an unreliable narrator and were in an isolated environment. I love an unreliable narrator. It centers around a woman named Carrie who has a self-fulfilling prophecy of ruining her own life. She ended up getting a book deal and spent all the money. While the book is not written, she blocked her best friend and her husband is leaving her. So in order to write the book and not have to repay back the money that is long gone, she decides to apply to be a caretaker at an inn where she would have no cell service. So she knew that she would be able to focus on the book, or so she thought. So this was by far my favorite book that I've ever received on NetGalley. Switching genres once more, this is The Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. It is the third book in the Knock 'Em Out trilogy, and by far my favorite. I love the entire series. I think I read these all in a week, and I'm a slow reader, so that just shows you how much I ate it up. But this is the story of Sloane and Lucian. Throughout the first two books, you also get some banter between the two characters. You realize that they have a backstory, and no one knows what really went down between them except the two of them. It's something that they refuse to talk about. It's something that's completely off limits. And this book goes into their backstory. So it's dual point of view with Lucian and Sloane, and then it's also a dual timeline. You get the backstory and then compared to the story now, and then it kind of meets in the middle and you get the full story, you know everything. I thought that this book was incredible, so even if you DNF'd the first two, I think it's worth giving this a try. If you wanted to read this as a standalone, I'm sure you absolutely could. But like I said, this was my absolute favorite. But just know, if you're reading this alone, you're missing their banter throughout this. So, slow burn indeed. Another book that I absolutely loved is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. It's a literary fiction book, and in my opinion, it's really cathartic. The dialogue is incredible. It's written in a way that feels like real life, and it hit close to home, honestly. As someone who has struggled with mental health, I think that it did a really good job at showing the struggles. And like I said, it was really realistic. I felt like I was watching everything unfold. And I loved that it was like an adult coming of age. I feel like I've been kind of gravitating towards books like that, where it's almost like the narrator is having a midlife crisis, because I also feel that way, and I want to be able to relate to some of the books that I read. I thought that The Wedding People was extremely relatable. Like I said, it was very realistic, and for those of us who have struggled with mental health, I think that it portrays it in a way that I don't think any other books really have, in my opinion. So these are some of my top 5 reads, and let me know if you agree with any of these or if you absolutely hated them. I'm not gonna yuck your yum, and I expect you to do the same for me. But until later, bye.